Over the past year or so, the future of wind energy production has become a contentious issue in Page County as wind turbines dot the countryside along the Interstate 80 corridor in western Iowa and are becoming part of the skyline in northwest Missouri. The pros and cons of wind turbines have been fiercely debated in public meetings locally. Today, KMA News explores the issues surrounding wind turbines in a special forum via Zoom featuring individuals representing both sides of the issue. Bill Menner is Executive Director of the Iowa Rural Development Council and the former Director of USDA Rural Development. Bill represents those who are in favor of wind energy development. And Jenna Swanson is a Clay County resident who represents individuals concerned about wind turbines as they pertain to property rights. Now, each person will be asked a series of questions related to issues connected to wind turbines, and each person will have 2 minutes to make their response. With all that out of the way, here's our first question today. Is wind energy development a benefit or detriment to rural Iowa? Bill Benner, you get to answer this question first. Go ahead.
Well, thanks, Mike. Good morning. I suppose if you like revenues for property taxes, if you like funding schools and basic infrastructure, creating job opportunities for young people who want to explore renewable energy as a career, then the answer is yes. It's a good thing for rural communities that choose to leverage the assets they have, and for property owners who want to lease land for turbines. The Rural Development Council, which is a statewide nonprofit, public-private, is focused on ways to empower small towns and rural places to allow them to be successful. And one of the things I've found through my work in this arena over the last 20 years is that places that have the money can make more money. So if you have the proceeds from the taxes that come from wind, you can make strategic investments in that. So I don't think I need a full 2 minutes to explain that places that choose to invest in renewable energy, whether it's wind or solar or geothermal, benefit in the long run.
Janice Swanson, it's your turn to answer this question. Is wind energy development a benefit or detriment to rural Iowa?
Yeah, okay. Well, I believe it's detriment. And Bill, I noticed that some of the words that you used were choose. And communities generally, when they're given the opportunity to choose whether they want to live within an industrial installation, they choose not to. And generally supervisors are given the right to do a referendum sort of vote in the footprint of the project area. And time again, they refuse. In states that we see where they do have referendum votes, like up in Michigan, the wind industry is having a horrible time putting up in these installations because people don't want them. Since 2015, 270 communities across the United States have banned or blocked industrial wind, and a lot more have fought it and lost to lawmakers that wouldn't listen to their constituents. So choose is a very interesting word. As far as revenue is, we are paying for these wind turbines. 100% of the cost of wind turbines are paid for by the federal government, which means our taxes. And a lot of people will say that's not true, but if you look in the Des Moines Register, May 30th, 2018, Adam Wright, who is the CEO of Mid-American Energy, says right in that interview that 100% of the cost of wind turbines comes from taxpayers. Now, also, if you go to Iowa Lakes Electric Co-op and talk to the president there, who's Rick Olson, he has also told me that the ones that they put up in 2008 were also 100% paid for by the government. Now, I'm a Republican, and I see that as not fiscally responsible.
All right, thank you very much, Jana. Let's move on to our next question. What are the safety risks involved with wind turbines? Again, what are the safety risks involved with wind turbines? Jana, you get to go first on this particular question.
Sorry, keep having to unmute there. In old wind turbine manuals from Nordex and Vestas, they have a safety setback that they put, it's 1,640 feet. And these now are for wind turbines that are no taller than 400 feet tall. And yet now wind turbines are going up to 500 feet tall and 600 feet tall, and they are making setbacks actually shorter. They are also taking those setbacks and they're putting them over the property lines of the neighbors that are non-participating. So if you have a 600, 500, 600 foot wind turbine, it should be at least a 2,000 foot setback to a property line. And they're doing like a little thing about a 1.1 or something like that. And I asked the wind industry, if I were to put a house right on my property line, right up where your wind turbine is on the neighbor's property, would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with that with your liability?
All right, thank you very much, Jana. And Bill Menner, you get to answer this question next.
I guess the question was, are there safety concerns? And the answer is no. There are no safety concerns. And, and since I still have 2 minutes, I just want to go back to Jana's point about choice. I'm looking over her shoulder and I see a grain bin off in the distance. And, you know, you had the right as property owners to put up that grain bin. You didn't have to have a local referendum to put up that bin because it's your land. So when we talk about choice, it's also empowering farmers to make strategic decisions about how they're going to structure their business and how they're going to diversify their crops, their livestock, and wind is a crop. So I would say that farmers making personal decisions about their private land is a choice.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. And now here's our next question today. What's the process of decommissioning a turbine at the end of their lifespan? And are there any ill effects from the decommissioning? Bill Menner, you get to answer this question first.
I have no idea. You know, I have no clue how the wind companies do that. So I'll have to defer to Jana because she probably knows.
All right, Jana, your response? Jana, you'll have to unmute your computer, please.
I keep doing that. Okay. We have a number of reports from expert engineers that say that decommissioning costs can range from $200,000 per wind turbine. And just right around to that, and Tom Wind did one. I could send them to you. And so what we're seeing is that especially Mid-American that I know is going into communities and saying, well, we're going to put $13,000 aside per wind turbine for decommissioning, or none at all, like up in Worth County. They have no decommissioning at all. And so I think that eventually the decommissioning costs will fall to communities. And so again, you're talking about revenue, and when we have to decommission all of these things, you know, the cost is going to be huge. And then hauling off all the blades and burying them and doing all those things, because it costs money also to bury these big blades in our landfills.
All right, thank you very much, Jana. Here's our next question today. According to Page County's wind turbine ordinance, the setback for non-participating landowners is 1,500 feet between the turbine and properties. Do you believe that this is a safe distance? And do you believe that there are enough protections for non-participating landowners? Jana, you get to go first on this first question.
Well, I would look at how Mid-American does things with their contracts. They offer neighbor agreements, which they offer money to neighbors to put up with a long list of negative impacts. And I have that contract. And some of the things that they say is that that neighbors will put up with noise, visual impact, shadow flicker, and you know, it will disrupt radio signals and things like that. But then also they put in these words: vibration, air turbulence, and wake. What do those words mean for non-participating landowners? Now, I've called AWEA, I've called Mid-American Energy, I've asked for them to explain what vibration, air turbulence, and wake means for non-participating landowners. And they offer these contracts within to 2,640 feet of any wind turbine. So what are they trying to say there? That 2,640 feet is a long distance, more than 1,500 feet.
All right, thank you very much, Jen. I'm told that the current ordinance states that the setback for non-participating landowners is 1,500 feet between the turbine and the foundation. Still, Bill, what's your response to this question? Do you believe that there are enough protections for non-participating landowners as far as wind turbines are concerned?
It would seem to me that what the county is proposing to do and how it's proposing to regulate these structures makes perfect sense. There are lots of things that property owners can do with private land. You could put up a CAFO, for example, and as long as you are under a certain threshold, you can do anything you want. And what the county is doing simply here is setting a framework for how these turbines will be installed. It seems pretty reasonable.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. We have time for one final question today. Based on your experience, do you believe wind turbine development will benefit Page County? Bill, you get to answer this question first.
Well, I think it will benefit Page County because the choices that are made for how to invest the windfall, we'll call it, from the property tax revenues can be used in so many different ways. If you look at how other counties have leveraged their wind resources, they've invested in schools, they've invested in economic development, they've improved their roads and bridges and basic infrastructure, and they've put away trust funds for rainy days. So at the end of the day, they're taking this asset and turning it into a public good. At the same time, farmers are getting a reliable, consistent source of revenue that goes in line with their own farm operations. So if you have a derecho, if you have floods or drought, you still have revenue coming in every year in a predictable rate because of the leases for these turbines. So what we're doing is we're allowing farmers to diversify. And at the end of the day, we're protecting those farm operations. So I think it's a good thing. Again, this is a choice that's being made at the local level by local elected officials and local property owners who are choosing to sign those leases. And I think that folks at the local level will make good decisions for themselves.
Thank you very much, Bill. Jenna, you get to answer this question next.
Again, you talk about choice and you talk about my little tiny grain bins out here, and those grain bins out there don't affect my neighbors, not at all. And that is why the wind turbines are a problem, is because they do impact the neighbors. And then also you again talk about revenue and how good this will be for Page County and things like that. And that sounds like a very democratic way of looking at things, that the government gives us money and aren't we just so much better for it? Because again, I'm going back to the fact that the government is paying for all of these. And if the government wasn't paying for them, talk to Warren Buffett, he wouldn't be putting up wind turbines. And I can go to a public meeting that he did where he said that publicly, and it was reported in the paper. So he said, no, without all of these subsidies that pay for 100% of the wind turbines, they would not build them. So again, as a Republican, I have to say, I cannot stand by this.
All right, Bill and Jenna, we thank you very much for your participation in this special forum today. The intent of this forum, again, was to examine both sides of this issue. We hope that those who listen to today's special report will be more informed of the issues facing wind energy production and turbines. KMA News will continue to cover this issue as further developments take place. Thank you for listening today. For KMA News, I'm Mike Peterson.